Oh, you can come in. Yeah.
Pretend you like each other. How's that going?
Don't want you being confused with the incoming passengers.
Yeah.
Come.
Like a
Yeah. We all good to go? Yeah, terrific. Well, it's wonderful to be here at Brisbane Airport, particularly here with representatives from Brisbane Airport, Gold Coast Airport, and I know our friends from Cairns and the Sunshine Coast international airports following this online today as well via the Premier's socials. But it's also great to have Patricia O'Callaghan from Tourism and Events Queensland and Brett Fraser from QTIC here as well, to be part of celebrating what is a wonderful anniversary, 12 months on since the announcement of the Aviation Attraction Investment Fund, the $200 million war chest between the Palaszczuk government and our international airports here in Queensland, funding and supporting and leaning in on the re-establishment of those international aviation routes that are so important to the re-establishment of our international tourism industry. This last 12 months has been very, very successful, but this success continues just today with the opportunity for me to be able to announce the restart of Korea Air flying Seoul Incheon to Brisbane 5 days a week as a result of our International Aviation Attraction Investment Fund. This is a great return to an important route, an important connection for our tourism economy, for our broader economy, and it's wonderful that we're seeing that restart in late April. We know that that will deliver some 89,000 extra seats inbound into Queensland, and that will provide an impact of some $120 million to the Queensland economy annually, and something like 1,200 jobs, both direct and indirect, in the Queensland economy. This is the 15th flight, 15th route that has been approved under this Aviation Attraction Fund. The AIF, as we call it, has been a wonderful partnership between ourselves and the 4 international airports here in Queensland. Very excited to see the way in which it's already seeing our international visitor economy rebound. It's still early days, but there's no question that without this impact and cooperation and working with those international airlines to re-establish these routes and create new routes, creating new markets, that we would not have the prospectivity of the return of the value of our international economic boon from international visitation as strong as it could be. Equally, I want to note that this comes after we've seen a Christmas New Year period, a peak holiday period that's seen on the domestic front some wonderful success. $4 billion worth of overnight visitor economy impact from our domestic visitors here in Queensland, and that's very positive and been really, really helpful to our tourism businesses and hospitality businesses. But we know that they're hungry to see those international visitors returning, and that's what this represents. The reality is that of those, across those 15 flights, those 15 routes that have been established under the AIF, we are seeing the prospectivity of getting close to $1 billion worth of return to the visitor economy, and that's so very exciting for what we know is what our visitor economy, what our tourism operators are very, very hungry for, and that's to add to our great friends who are visiting from across Australia, with more people coming from across the globe to enjoy what we have on offer and to learn more about what Queensland does deliver in terms of experiences and wonderful destinations, especially in the lead up to the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. So again, as I say, it's great to be with our close friends and partners in the international airports, and with leaders from our tourism industry such as Trish and Brett. But I'm going to hand over to Ryan from Brisbane Airport Corporation. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. Hi, everybody. Ryan Both, Executive General Manager of Aviation at Brisbane Airport. Queensland's economy is set for a soul revival. These new flights from South Korea are an exciting development today and a great news story for Queensland's visitor economy. Korea was Queensland's third largest trading market prior to the pandemic, and we're really excited to see direct capacity restored between Korea and Queensland. South Korean tourists and students love coming to Queensland, and this is the only direct way they'll be able to get here. This is of course possible because of the Aviation Attraction Fund, in partnership between the 4 major international gateway airports in Queensland and a joint initiative with the Palaszczuk government. And I'd like to thank Minister Hinchliffe and his department and all of our tourism partners and other gateway airports for working together so closely to deliver a bounce back in Queensland's visitor economy. This fund has hit the fast forward button in Queensland's international recovery. So where are we today? Well, a year ago we were standing here in Queensland and we were at 2% of international recovery at Brisbane Airport. Today we're at 61%. And this Aviation Attraction Fund has given Queensland the edge in competing globally for airline flights to Queensland. Every day these new flights deliver tons and tons of capacity for our exporters of chilled beef, fresh seafood and high-value manufacturing to get their products to market all over the world, and that means more jobs for Queensland. But we won't rest. We've got more to do, more recovery to achieve, and we'll keep fighting hard to give Queensland the edge. Thank you. I'll pass to Adam Rowe from Gold Coast Airport.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm Adam Rowe, the Chief Commercial Officer for Queensland Airports Limited, owner and operator of Gold Coast Airport. It's been a very exciting year for us with the Attracting Aviation Investment Fund. It was in the depths of COVID with border closures that the 4 international airports of Queensland were in discussions with the Queensland Government through the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport, as well as Tourism and Events Queensland regarding the establishment, which today we mark 1 year's anniversary of. And since then, only 8 months since all the restrictions were actually lifted with international travellers coming into Australia, we're now back at almost pre-COVID levels. In fact, in January we saw over 570,000 passengers come through the terminal at Gold Coast Airport across both our domestic and international markets. Our Singapore service with Scoot was the first to restart with support from the Attracting Aviation Investment Fund in February last year, actually only 1 week today. Then we had our Japan services restart on the 2nd of August with Jetstar for Tokyo to the Gold Coast. And pleasingly, we've seen those flights running at now 84% full, 84% of seats sold on the Japan to Gold Coast flights, over 30,000 travellers between Japan and the Gold Coast since those routes restarted. Our New Zealand services are performing exceptionally strongly as well. Auckland, Christchurch, Wellington and Queenstown, we're seeing over 90% of seats sold. Kiwis love the Gold Coast and they're coming back to us in droves, which is great to see. We're seeing so much demand on New Zealand that thanks to the Aviation Attraction Investment Fund, Air New Zealand are increasing their services from the end of March as well, bringing a further 28,000 seats into the Gold Coast market and injecting $28 million into the local economy. We know how important international connectivity is for Queensland, bringing in tourists, spending money in the visitor economy, creating jobs, as well as bringing in skilled workers from overseas to help fill the skills gaps that we have here in Queensland. We're also seeing international students return, and our 4 universities, language schools and vocational schools on the Gold Coast are absolutely enjoying the growth in international capacity that we're seeing. Looking ahead to April, we have the recommencement of AirAsia X services, a key link, a key long-standing link between the Gold Coast and Malaysia. 58,000 seats will start on the 1st of April, injecting tens of millions into the Gold Coast economy when AirAsia X restart their services between Kuala Lumpur and the Gold Coast. The Attracting Aviation Investment Fund gives us a seat at the table. It is a global competition for airline capacity. They've only got so many aircraft, they've only got so many crews, and having this fund behind us means that Queensland airports get to the table with the airline, and we have a key negotiating plank to work with. I'd like to hand now to Brett Fraser from QTIC.
Good morning, Brett Fraser, Chief Executive Officer of the Queensland Tourism Industry Council. The tourism industry absolutely applauds the efforts of the Queensland Government and the 4 international airports and the commitment that they've made to returning international aviation capacity to Queensland. Queensland's benefited greatly from domestic visitation over the last 12 months, but the ongoing growth and sustainability of the tourism industry in Queensland is absolutely reliant on international travel and international visitation to our economy. Funds like this and these fighting funds mean that we can compete on a global stage to attract those really important direct aviation routes from international markets into Queensland. That then connected with the amazing domestic connectivity that we have in Queensland across all of our regions means that those international visitors who are coming to Australia can make the most of their time in Queensland. International aviation is not just critical to the tourism industry, but absolutely critical to the broader economy. It drives trade and investment, tourism, as well as education, but really importantly, it brings back those international workers that we so desperately need here in Queensland to fill those vacancies that we have in the marketplace. So we do again applaud the efforts of the Queensland Government and the 4 airports to back this fund and to really drive that important capacity that we need coming into Queensland. Thank you. And I'll pass over to Trish O'Callaghan.
Thank you. Trish O'Callaghan, CEO, Tourism and Events Queensland. Queensland needs to be aggressive if we are going to rebuild our international marketing. And the Queensland Government's announcement around this Aviation Attraction Fund gave us 12 months to turbocharge that aggression into real outcomes. To be standing here in 12 months announcing more than 15 services supported, injecting more than $1 billion into the Queensland economy is a strong step forward in rebuilding what was a $6 billion international market. But we have a lot more work to do, and it's great to see that Tourism and Events Queensland has backed this campaign up with global international marketing campaigns that are currently in play. Next week we will have our New Zealand Queensland is Calling campaign launched, attracting our Kiwi visitors back to our shores. In addition to that, we have partnered with Expedia with a major global marketing campaign that will touch several countries across the world. This is going to be an exceptionally competitive market, but with the Aviation Attraction Fund, which was called on by industry, and the marketing to back it up, we can ensure that we are very much working hard to rebuild what is an exceptionally lucrative market for Queensland. A market that is, whilst 10% of our visitors overall, puts in more than 24% of our overnight visitor expenditure. So we're confident about the future for Queensland tourism and excited about what the next 12 months will currently have in store.
Thanks, Trish. Thank you all. So happy to answer any questions that you have around this matter, and obviously any of our colleagues here can answer questions as well.
200 million, you actually think that's a pretty good value for money now?
Well, the uplift in terms of the 100 million contributed by the Palaszczuk government, the 100 million contributed by the airports, that $200 million war chest, which has led the country and showed other jurisdictions how to do it, that means that we do have a great competitive edge, and that's delivering results, getting close to $1 billion worth of economic benefit out of this investment from the Palaszczuk government. Having that partner with the private sector, that shows that this is a really well-designed fund that's delivering for Queensland. Well, obviously, Tourism and Events Queensland, as the government's marketing arm for tourism, is doing a great job in terms of leaning forward and doing so ahead of the curve in some respects, of making sure that there's been great marketing presence internationally in partnership with Tourism Australia, but following up and backing up with a Queensland focus on the opportunities to build aspiration around people coming to Australia. Now with this increased airline capacity and what that means in terms of affordability as well, what that means is that they can then lean in further in terms of their marketing campaigns, working with partners in country and other parts of the world to transition that aspiration to booking a holiday. Transition that aspiration to a reality of having visitors come here to Australia and enjoy the delights that our destinations offer.
Are there particular locations that you want to add to this as direct flights, or is this the capacity you kind of need, or do you need more?
Oh no, there's all more that we need to do. Obviously, we've got the routes that have been mentioned by both Adam and Ryan into the Gold Coast and Brisbane. We've also seen the announcement of the Haneda-Cairns route, the Tokyo-Cairns route with Virgin. There's more to come from Cairns, and there's more in the pipeline and being negotiated with Sunshine Coast. We'll see all of those airports continue to develop new routes, and we want to see more into new markets. The vast majority of these have been rebuilds of previous routes, like this announcement about Korea Air today. There have been some wonderful announcements about completely new routes, like that Haneda airport to Cairns, and also, of course, San Francisco to Brisbane with United Airlines. Not having United Airlines fly direct into Queensland for the first time ever has been a great benefit from the work that the Aviation Attraction Investment Fund has been able to do in cooperation with the airports. But there is more that we want to be doing, and new markets that we want to be developing as well.
Any particular new markets to look at?
Oh, look, there's a range out there. I don't want to hamper the negotiation capability of our friends and our team in how they're working with different markets by signalling too heavily where our focuses are. But there are certainly new markets in Southern Asia, in Southeast Asia, and other parts of the globe that we want to see rebuild, or indeed become new routes direct into Queensland that don't currently fly to Queensland.
A lot of people on some of these international flights will be Chinese students coming back. How many are coming into Brisbane, and what will we say we have to close with that?
Yeah, certainly it's been very welcoming to see the influx from the return of international students across the board. And the announcements that we've seen in terms of changes of policy in China, in mainland China, have meant that that is starting to kick up further in relation to return of those Chinese students, many of whom are long-standing students at Queensland institutions. So we're seeing a lot of that return happen, maybe quicker than we might have been anticipated before that policy change, but it is still a slow rebuild. There is no question that's not coming as an avalanche. It's certainly being enhanced by the aviation capacity, but it's not an avalanche just yet. So I'm confident that those providers are working with their students around what they need to support them with, particularly in relation to all their broader needs, including accommodation. And I know Study Queensland, the Queensland Government's agency, is working closely with those providers to provide any support that the government can provide.
Figures on how many students have come back so far?
Yeah, no, I don't have those figures to hand. I'm happy to sort of double check those and get back to you. In terms of across the visitor economy more broadly, yes, certainly our single biggest inbound market before the pandemic was China. It's not that now, and how that rebuilds, we're already seeing a significant amount of what I guess we would describe as visiting friends and family coming out of the Chinese market at the moment, but nothing like the large group bookings that have happened in the past. That's an area that I know Tourism Australia and particularly Tourism and Events Queensland are working closely together on how to get the timing right to rebuild that market. And obviously, in terms of aviation, that's a further conversation that's going on all the time.
So, yeah, Brisbane Airport said they're up to about 61% capacity. I guess if you get that full Chinese market in, that'll really spike that number.
That really would spike things back up to where we were, but we've got to be cautious and focused and making sure that we do, I think, diversify how we target our operations and activities, and that's why looking at new markets is also equally as important as rebuilding those traditional markets. Sure. I'm aware of those reports, and obviously safety is paramount in everything to do with aviation. Aviation is very important to the visitor economy, and we want to see it running as smoothly and as efficiently as possible, but everything first must come safety. Safety must come first in everything. Obviously that matter is a matter for Air Services Australia, which is a federal government agency, but certainly it is a matter that we'll be wanting to watch closely in order to support the smooth operation of aviation here in Queensland, and doing it, as I say, with safety as the paramount consideration. Well, that's a matter for Air Services Australia, and a matter for the federal government to regulate. I'm not an air traffic controller. I don't think I'm in the right position to be commenting on that.
Just on the Cyclone Gabrielle, what support is on offer to the?
Well, I know that the forward the support has been moved forward in relation to the local authorities there in Norfolk Island. I know Queensland stands ready to provide whatever support it can once the full impacts of Cyclone Gabrielle are known. Thankfully, we know it is moving away from Queensland, but we do we are thinking of our friends in Norfolk Island and indeed visitors who might be there at the moment, and making sure that all communications are open to be able to lean in and provide the support that's required at the right time.
In terms of military support, will they emergency services, would they be deployed there?
All of those matters will be matters that the Norfolk Island authorities will be working with, the federal government with governments that support them, like the Queensland government, to provide their feedback on what's needed, and I'm confident that we'll be in there to support our Norfolk Islander friends.
So just no support on offer at this stage, but you're open to any time?
My understanding is that the communications have been continuing the whole time, and obviously we stand ready to provide support to our friends there.
Just on goods crime, is there any update on the patrols that stepped up in the
Well, I certainly have heard the reports that I've heard that over the past period has been that step up in those operations has resulted in some significant increase in some arrests and charges that have been laid. That's a good demonstration of the way in which just one of the very important, obviously the Queensland Police Service is a very important agency in delivering delivering on community safety. That's our focus at this time, and it should always be. For everyone involved, the focus should be on community safety, and it's good to hear that there's good reports coming out of those operations.
There's some strong reactions to the Deputy Premier's comments yesterday. Some of the experts in the field say it threatens separation of powers. Does the government stand by those comments?
All I can say is that everyone's concern, no matter what their role in this system, should be around the community safety. And I know that everyone, in whatever role they play, should have an eye and focus on community safety. And I think there were some frustrations on behalf of the broader community that might have been expressed by the Deputy Premier, but I think that was just out of an expression of wanting to support community safety.
The mass release of young offenders, does that fit into community safety?
As I say, I think the focus of everyone, in whatever role they play in our justice system, be it youth justice or more broadly, should be focused on community safety, and I'd encourage everyone to keep that in mind as they undergo their role in the process.
This issue doesn't seem to be going away. Is there anything more the government can be doing to kind of quell some of those fears around this issue across the whole state?
I think the reality is that this is a very multifaceted and complex issue, and if it wasn't, these issues wouldn't continue to be the challenge that they are, because different elements that we've moved on, have tweaked, of different parts of how different elements of the community have responded, would have had an impact that it might have quelled some of the concerns. The reality is that it is a deep and complex issue, and we've got to continue to do what we can do. And I know that from my role as a government minister and as a legislator in the Parliament, we've got some matters that we'll be dealing with in the Parliament when we resume at the end of the month, and that'll be one of the parts which we can play to deliver on community safety. and I encourage everyone who's part of the system and part of our community, be they the general public, be they the media, to be focused on what we can do to deliver on community safety. Yep, for sure. Who's next? Yep, Ryan.
We're really happy with the progress we're making in the recovery of Queensland's international visitor economy and the trade links and export links that we're establishing with the world. Clearly the Chinese market is a key focus for us, as the Minister mentioned, so we certainly want to see a return of direct flights from China. And then we have a number of markets that need to continue to recover. So we've had some great success with United Airlines operating the first ever non-stop flight by an American carrier between Brisbane and San Francisco. But we have more capacity. We need to meet the previous size of the market from the USA, and also New Zealand still needs to recover. So there's a range of markets that still need to grow back in to their previous levels. And I think we'll see that recovery occur over the next 1 to 2 years. It's really turbocharged by this partnership we have with the Queensland Government for the Aviation Attraction Fund.
So we've just got one more on Chinese students here. With those Chinese students coming back, have you seen big numbers and any big flights that are waiting for something like that?
On Friday last week, we celebrated 150 students on one single flight returning on Cathay Pacific. So we have seen good demand for the capacity that's there, but clearly that market was a lot larger prior to the pandemic. So we're really keen to make sure flights restore and we can support the education market and economy in Queensland.